right. Hello, everyone. I have one of the most amazing women in my life on the podcast with us today. She literally changed my life. So I had to have her on here. She was actually my business and mindset coach. And like I said, she completely shifted my world around for me, allowed me to go deeper than I've ever explored my human self possible. Like I went to the depths of the darkness in my soul with her. And yeah, she just was able to radically shift and transform, evolve, expand my mind in ways that I didn't even know was humanly possible. So without further ado, I want to welcome my business and energetics coach and founder of the Quantum Ripple Effect Coaching Certification Program, Miss Erin Nicole Porter.
Thank you so much for having me and for that beautiful introduction.
You're
It was
so
like truly an honor, and like watching you and like your growth and your expansion has been so beautiful. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. This is like so awesome. I'm like, I literally was like thinking, like brainstorming everyone that I wanted to have on the podcast. And I was like, I got to get Erin on here like ASAP. I'm like, when someone changes your life, you gotta just,
Yeah.
pay it back. Totally.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm like, I try and tag you in like all the things on Instagram, and I just like, people need to know who this girl is. So I really am. I'm grateful, but I'm also so proud of you. It's awesome watching your evolution. So Erin and I'll share a little backstory on us. So Erin and I were in the same, like, I guess like Facebook community, Angie Lee's Facebook community. And she posted a story one day, like, picture, caption, all of that in the Facebook group. And I was like, oh my God, this girl just literally wrote my story. How she was just like not fulfilled in her 9-to-5, totally burnt out, left the 9-to-5, pursued the health coaching, had gone through like, kind of like, well, you had done like a fitness competition too. And I had not done the competition. I just did the workouts for the competition and then gotten like a whole heap of health issues. But it was like, literally like everything she was saying was like, oh my God, that's me. This girl is me. And she's my twin. And so I sent her a DM sharing that, like, oh my God, we have the same story. And I wound up actually going out maybe like maybe a month later. I had already planned a trip to California and hit her up with that story. And I was like, hey, I would love to like meet you. We wound up meeting for lunch for like an hour and a half one day, and just we're jiving, and it just kind of has like taken off since then. But later on, a few months after that, and Erin was already, doing her coaching and everything. And we had both also come from our direct sales team too. So literally like we were so aligned. And, but yeah, so a couple months later, Erin was actually a co-coach in Angie Lee's former mastermind. And that experience, it was just profound in the sense, like I'm learning all this strategy, how to like, what my niche was, how to create like passive income and digital courses and evergreen courses and all this stuff. And then Erin's this co-coach that comes in with this like extremely different approach and was talking about just like all the like quote unquote woo-woo stuff of the business world. And I was like, wait, this is totally different. Like, this is changing how I see things, how I feel things. And anyways, after that, got done with the program, was still just like in her energy. I think I had started like joining your like little Facebook group too, because Erin had one as well. Then I fell in love as blind, and my brain like blew up. It went to mush, and it's like as if I forgot all the things I thought I had learned. I needed direction. I needed support. I needed help. I was not in a very good place in my life. Just from that show, there was just a lot of emotionally charged experiences, and Erin was my lifesaver. I reached out to her 3 weeks, I think, after the filming ended, and I was like, I need you. I don't care how much you cost. I mean, I did, but like I didn't. And yeah. And like I said, the rest was history. I hired her as my business mindset coach. She just, like I said, turned my world upside down, but in the best way possible. And I have just seen her expand in her business, in her life, relationships, spirituality, all the things. And it's just been beautiful. So I love you. So there you go.
in our adventures.
Yes, our adventures. Yeah, and we had like great fun single girl date night, so much fun dancing and tequila and all the things too. So,
Gotta live it up.
Us coaches, we have fun too. That's the biggest part about entrepreneurship. And that is what Erin taught me. You have to have fun. You have to bring joy and play and pleasure into your life.
Mm-hmm.
So she embodies that for sure. So I would love for you, Erin, to kind of, I guess, go back and tell us like how you got started, what, some of maybe your challenges were, some of your darker moments that you were able to like turn into light, and how you share that light now.
Yeah. I got started, same thing back in like the Beachbody network marketing days in like 2012, I think is when I started in that. So it's been a hot minute now at this point. But that was my beginning journey, and just was kind of like dabbling in it for a while, would do all like the weird posts on Facebook before I learned really how to like embody marketing and sales and do it in a way that felt really good. Once I was in grad school, so I have a master's in student affairs, which my focus back then was like crisis, working with students in distress, leadership development, marketing management, kind of a few different things, very similar to like paths that I'm in now. And I was health and fitness coaching on the side. So I was starting to do personal training, group fitness, beginning to have my own stuff around like 2015-ish. It's like, oh, I don't have to necessarily just do this. I can create my own types of programs and courses. So my journey kind of evolved from there. Was still doing marketing on the side, kind of consulting for a few different places, and then dropped more into like the business coaching as that was really taking off. Then added in more mindset, energetics, and now I'm really focused in on coaching certification, somatic work, attachment work, really like all the energetic pieces of business, and then making sure that your strategy is aligned. So that's kind of like where things have evolved, and so many struggles along the way and beautiful moments, of course, too. And, some of those, as you kind of wanted me to share a few of those things that popped up. I mean, it was a while before things really started like to pick up. Like, I did it for a few years and was consistent with it. And there's so many times where I felt like let down, nobody would maybe sign up for something, or, one person would sign up. And those moments where maybe aren't hitting a goal that you have, like they get you. So I'd say that would be one of the things. Another thing too is actually I was in a partnership, I was in a relationship, and we had part of our brand together. And so I had built a website, all the things around that. Obviously, we broke up after dating for about like 6 years. And so having to kind of like rebrand and refocus from that standpoint. And just so much like other healing along the way, like really being able to heal my little girl, understanding like attachment, the traumas that have come up in my life. And right when I actually first left my full-time job to go full in on coaching, a week later, I was hit by a drunk driver and didn't have insurance, didn't have like any money saved up. I totally just like went off on a limb. And so I mean, there's so many different things along the way. I feel like I could go a million different directions on the things that happen, and there's still all of that, but I think it's truly like how we choose to handle it and to keep going even when things aren't maybe working at the way that we want them to, and being consistent, showing up for ourselves, our healing, our business, and really trusting in it as we grow.
Yeah, absolutely. When you I guess like, okay, what transitioned you were doing like marketing consulting.
Mm-hmm.
How did you even like know there was like business coaching? Like, how did you know that that was a thing to even transition into?
Yeah, good question. So I, through like doing like social media marketing and stuff like that, also within direct sales and that sort of thing through Beachbody. And then I had a lot of people coming to me like, oh, how did you grow your health and fitness brand? Like, how have you been creating all these courses? And I was just helping like everybody with that at that point. And then yeah, I mean, just kind of from there, I started taking on people and was like, oh, yeah, like I'll help you with this. And then before you knew it, I was like full on business coaching all these different people and they were creating courses and like they were blowing up and having clients. And I was like, I guess I'm more of like a business coach now. So I was kind of doing both for a little bit. But the other part of it really lit me up more. And then I kind of found out that, okay, oh, yeah, there's business coaching, mindset coaching. And then everything else kind of opened up from that place.
Mhm. And how did you get into the mindset coaching aspect of it? Because I mean, there's so many, what I heard, as through my entrepreneurial journey now, it's like, okay, yeah, there's strategy, but then there's also the mindset piece of it, and I mean, granted, that's probably what I learned from your mouth. 2.5 years ago, there's a strategy, but there's also the mindset piece of it. There's the energetic piece of it. But like, how did you even tap into that and explore that side of things?
Yeah, like I kept hitting a wall, I felt like with just doing strategy and I kept searching for the next strategy. I was like, okay, it's got to be something in the strategy that's not working, that's not getting me to the next level. And I kept searching and searching and searching for that. And I would do personal development. I was kind of into that world a little bit. And even doing more like conscious mindset work was what was available to me. So using that like 1% of our mind, like affirmations, journaling, all amazing things, but there's obviously way things in our psyche and our unconscious. And so when I started diving into more of that world, working with coaches, I found out about like neurolinguistic programming and the subconscious mind and all of that. And that kind of opened up that whole world to me of like, oh, okay, there's some healing that needs to happen. There's this little girl, parts of me that's running my business, that's running my relationships, that's running so many different things that are coming. And she's stuck in trauma and old patterns and programming from, when she was little that are popping up in my business now. And so through starting to dive into like inner child work and then the unconscious mind, the energetics, attachment, trauma, all of that, it just kind of opened up this whole other piece. And I was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense to me because I was trying to like chase things. I was trying to chase like income goals and worth and through all of that. And I couldn't realize like why the strategy wasn't working. It was because like my energy was off with it, or I was, hoping I would feel safe and secure when I'd get to some income level or when something would happen. And it was like these false senses of validation that I had no idea that I was doing this, but I've been doing that my whole life, like high achieving, doing all the things, running towards the next goal. And so that kind of began to open up the mindset and all the energy piece once I kind of started to realize, okay, it's not just strategy. You got to be aligned with the strategy as well. And, feel really embodied in the work that you're doing and have the healing work support you so you can grow with it and expand.
Yeah, absolutely. What can you explain a little bit like about the when you talk about like the inner child or like the little girl in you, kind of like could you give us an example of something that like a deep rooted story and like what that means
Yeah,
exactly, like how to
sure.
actually like discover what, yeah, I guess like talking to your little girl and like nurturing her, like what does that actually look like and how can you change the story for the little girl?
Yeah, yeah. So if you kind of think about your unconscious mind, so like the 99%, like the part of you that's really running on autopilot, that when you're between the ages of 0 and 7, and even in the womb, you're like a sponge. You're soaking up experiences. You're soaking up what people are saying to you. You're soaking up meaning of something. And again, it's not that like parents or anything are doing anything wrong. They're just doing the best that they can. And like you and I could have had the exact same parents and had two different experiences. It's just how our energetic bodies respond to it. And something else within that too is not all of it is like words or consciously based or experiences that you might remember. Some of those experiences or missed experiences are actually stored somatically in the body. And so for an example of that, one of my things was like never feeling like enough, like never feeling like a fullness. And I had my parents were both there wasn't anything that I like might be considered like a major thing where I was abandoned or anything like that. But even being younger and thinking about like how I needed food or how I needed to be held. Some of that even pre-verbal stuff can actually still pop up later on in your business or your life when you're thinking about like the healing work. So there were times where I was like, man, I just never feel like I could get full and never feel like I could get enough. There's like attachment pieces that are happening in that. And once you start to connect with whether, again, it's more body based or whether it's more like of the stories or the beliefs or the things that were given to you growing up, they're this like little girl inside of you, like your inner child, she is like looking to have like an adult that can like meet her and attune to her in the way that she needed, cared for, supported for, connected with, nurtured, whatever that is. And so until you can understand how to kind of get your adult online with your inner child and let them work together, so then she's not running the show, she'll like look for different things throughout her life. You know, she'll look to find a different way to get her needs met. So let's say, for example, and for me in the past as well, like I never even knew that like I didn't actually feel safe in my body, and and that I was actually even could like feel internally. I was so up in my head constantly thinking about the next thing, the next goal, what should I be doing, and just had all of this up here. And I was doing that to keep myself safe. It was like a protector that came online. If I could just outthink my way through something, or if I could just keep going and going and going, slowing down and being in my body was not like a safe thing. I had no conscious awareness of that. But then I realized through like diving into a lot of this work is that she didn't feel safe. Like she didn't feel safe just to be. She only knew how to like get love and get connection and get her needs met through how much she could do rather than just finding like that safety in the being. And so to kind of like sum all of that up, it's like anywhere again, verb like before words, like pre-verbal, things that were beliefs that were given to you, values that were given to you based on you know, whoever took care of you growing up. All of that is just like kind of stored in the body. And so getting to understand that somatically and unconsciously, you can start to reprogram that deeply. So then she's not the one that's like running the relationship or the show or the business or whatever it is as you move forward.
Yeah, yeah. And I had a lot of, well, I mean, I still do. I mean, I think we always say this, like at every level, there's like this next level of like healing. Like, you know, you're always going to be nurturing that little girl to a degree, you know, it may happen more quickly. You know, you can get to that level of like, okay, I'm holding her and she's safe and let's go.
Yeah.
But at first it, you know, the concept to me, like I said, I mean, you opened my mind to all of this, and I didn't know what this even meant, you know.
Mm.
Besides my sister probably saying some things to me, but I was like totally in la la land and didn't hear her. You know, the way that you conveyed messages, the concepts, everything just made so much sense, although it made no sense at all sometimes. Like, but it really did. It sat with me so well, and it's like, okay, like how can I hold myself? And I on another episode, I was telling I was who was it? With Nicole Moore, this love coach. I was telling her about my recent, you know, relationship or most recent relationship, and how I wound up like sitting on the couch one night, like actually literally physically holding myself, because I was like, Kelly, like give yourself the grace to feel today,
Mm-hmm.
because Kelly has been going and going and going. And yes, she might think about it every day, but she has not really been able to hold space for the emotions to happen and like just be in the feeling of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I just like sat on my couch, I held myself, and I just cried. I was like, and I felt so much better afterwards, because I really was just like catering to the little girl that's saying like, no, I'm still sad, like I'm still sad, we haven't moved on yet, I'm still like in my bedroom pitching a fit, kind of thing, that this didn't work
Yeah.
out. But you know, I think the concept is just so profound, and it kind of reminds me of that, not that I've been to Burning Man, but like obviously that like picture or whatever, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
of the two characters with their backs against each other, but then there's these little kids on the inside, or these smaller little figures on the inside, and they're like touching through the back. it reminds me of that all the time. Cause it's like the
Yeah.
bigger figure is your adult self. And then that little figure inside, and they're just like, help me. Like, it's just a really cool thing. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, there's so many deep rooted stories within all of us, and really holding space for that little girl is necessary for us all to expand. I mean, you always use that word, and I absolutely have made it mine too these days. Expansion is so great. It's just such a cool thing to like tap into that. And you might think like, I mean, granted, I think anyone listening in is, understanding of this, and they're open to the ideas and the concepts of all of what we're talking about here. But for some, there may be like, this is completely new and I have no idea what the heck they're talking about either, and that's okay. But you're here, and I'm glad that you're here listening in. And I hope that we expand your mindset so that you can maybe open yourself up to this kind of work in the future. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. So I guess go into like the different modalities that you do use, and why did you get into, so like your I don't know how to say the word.
Hypnotherapist.
You're a hypnotherapist. Yeah. I was like, is she hypnotherapist? I don't know. Okay. So you're a hypnotherapist, master Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? And you do somatic training, which you probably need to explain what that is to the audience. You are, what else?
There's a lot of different things. Attachment repair, NLP,
NLP.
breath work.
Breath work. Yes. Oh God. Breath work. We'll go there. Okay.
So I was like, we got to go there.
Yeah, we got to go there. But let's talk about all these different things. Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, I saw a hypnotherapist. I don't even know if I told you this. Did I tell you I was hypnotized when I was like 7 or 8?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my experience. And then I saw like people at school, there was like a, performance at school.
Right.
But it does work, but I don't know, like, I'm sure as an adult, it hits harder. So yeah.
And depending upon like how you're receiving it and what's being done, if it's more clinical hypnotherapy, I mean that's very different than stage hypnosis and all of that too. But yeah, like the techniques and modalities, so I like looking and working on a top down and a bottom up approach. So top down is working from the unconscious mind into the body, and then working from the body up is working in like the somatic. So when I say the word somatic, I'm talking about energy experiences, things that are stored in the body. So sometimes there's trauma that's stored in our system. I mean, I shouldn't say sometimes, we all have different traumas in our life that have been stored energetically in our system. And so working with both of those lenses, top down from the mindset, from the unconscious into the body, and then the body up, is a really beautiful way to blend the work. And for me personally, like I've had experiences both ways. So I kind of got into the work through neurolinguistic programming, understanding the unconscious mind, the quantum field, all of that magic. And then, hypnotherapy is amazing too. I've been doing that for a long time. And then was like, okay, there's something deeper that I want to dive into. And some of that was stuff that was stored energetically in my system. So like somatic work and being able to be with the felt experience of a sensation that, again, as I kind of talked about earlier, like that pre-verbal piece of it, some of that can be worked through like somatic work. Attachment, I know we were just talking about before we jumped on the book Attached. So if you're familiar with attachment theory, anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, secure attachment, disorganized, there's a lot of different ones out there. And that's kind of how we were bonded and connected growing up, being able to heal those experiences. I actually do some of that work here in person with a stick. And so I'll hold a stick, another person will hold a stick, and we're like pulling on it. And it actually invokes a lot of opportunity to heal internally. And breath work, which you've gotten to experience too, which is using like the body as the healer and using like what's happening in our system to guide us. So yeah, that's kind of been my journey. It's really been experiencing all of the techniques and modalities, seeing the impact that it's had on my life, and then be like, okay, I need to bring this out into the masses.
Yeah. Was there, so you started with NLP first?
Mhm. Yeah.
What
Hypnotherapy and NLP.
Okay. So were there like the life pivoting like moment that you were like, oh, let me go further into this and like let me see what this is about? Like what happened? Was there something
Yeah.
that happened that to you or for you, shall
Yeah.
I say?
Yeah, just like stories and beliefs that I had, like things that, I had no idea were even stored in there, but then I'd find out like through doing some of this work, like I'd remember something that happened when I was like 5 years old and remembered like a story or belief that was given to me and was able to like start to release that through there. I mean, there's been so many things that I've been able to let go of, whether it's been in money mindset, whether it's been in different limiting beliefs, limiting decisions, something where I like decided at one point in my life that this was the way that things had to be when in reality it didn't have to be that way. Like there's so many. There wasn't like really one pivotal thing. It was like, oh wow, there's a lot in here that I can let go of and I don't have to hold on to anymore, and I can create a new reality and a new story when I release these things, and it's safe for me to actually release them. Like they're a lot of the stories and the beliefs that I had, I thought were keeping me safe. I thought were the way that I needed to show up or do or be a certain way. And in reality, it was just a lot that was kind of either I picked up on along the way, that was given to me. And I found through that work, I could rewrite my story and heal and feel like much more in my body. Because that was another piece of it too. I used to not have as many memories as a child because I was super dissociated. I kind of would leave my body a lot. I was telling you about the book, The Five Personality Patterns. One of them in there is like the leaving pattern. And so then even through that work, I was able to kind of like remember little pieces of things and be able to heal it and not have to be like, not relive it, but be able to learn something from it to help me move forward and yeah, take that into like life, business, relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I while you're talking, I'm like having like a moment. Yesterday, I was either yesterday or the night before. I was like in the middle of like going to bed, but I started reading, and I'm reading a book on codependency right now. What I started thinking about had nothing, well, it probably did have something to do with what I was reading. It probably triggered it. But anyways, I just stopped reading, and for like 20 minutes, or what felt like 20 minutes, I just started remembering all of these experiences and instances and moments at my grandparents' house.
Mhm.
It was very like just not weird, but like interesting. Like I hadn't thought of these memories in a long time. And it just like one after the other. And then like just the way that my grandma would like chuckle or anything. Like it was just like so crazy. Or the way that I got scared going down into their basement at nighttime because it was like an unfinished basement and it was dark and dungeony and all the things. It was just so crazy. And then the games that were like on this shelf above the basement, and I would like have to like I would like reach as far as I could to like get the game so like the boogeyman wouldn't come out of the basement and get me. Like all these little memories like started all popping up, and I was like, wow, I'm like, and then I got like teary eyed because I'm like, oh my god, like my grandparents are no longer with us and they haven't been for like 15 years, and I'm like, wow, like how wild. Like my brain just like the words in the pages just opened up something inside of my brain. It was like
Mhm.
really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and there's actually, it makes so much sense that that happens because what will happen is our unconscious mind will store a lot, and then when we're ready, it will bring it up for healing. So something, whether in the book or just in your own journey of healing, it felt like, oh, okay, like we can work through this now. Like we're at a place where it can come up, and something either maybe triggered it, or it felt safe to be able to kind of work through that or bring that memory to you. So yeah, it's like your unconscious mind working for you in
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely what happened. I was like, I might get emotional. um, yes, there's definitely some, I would say probably like some like shame or something. Like I know whatever I just told you guys has nothing to do with shame, but the eluded memories also that came with that. I think that there was some like shame around how I was around my grandparents.
Mm,
Weird. I'd get into that another time, but interesting stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, there was a level of healing that happened the other night. Okay, one thing you said about the somatic and like the pre-verbal,
Hmm.
like so when you tap into the somatics, I don't know if I'm using that language correctly, but when you do that, when you use that approach, you were able to, as an adult now, experience things that you felt as a like 2-year-old.
Not necessarily like experience it. So it's not that you have to like relive it, and it's not even experiencing a traumatic event or something that has happened to you in the past. Like I just want to make that clear. Like you don't have to like relive it. But like let's say for example, I'm gonna use like a pretty basic example. Let's say when you were growing up, you maybe you just weren't like held in a certain way that like you wanted to be held, or maybe like you weren't fed in a way, or you weren't burped in a way. Like this is very pre-verbal, and maybe that happened, let's say 8 times out of 10. And as a baby, obviously maybe like you reached for that in a way, but you couldn't express it. So maybe you cried a lot, or maybe there was well, whatever babies do when they're not like happy in that can actually get stored in the body. And so it wouldn't make sense that I never felt full or never felt enough, because it's not like somebody was down there saying like, oh, you're never enough, whatever. But that for me was stored energetically in my system. And
Mm,
so what I could kind of uncover with that, and again, it's not always that you even get a conscious connection with some of that work. Like your body has this healing script. It's like what one of my mentors calls it. And your body has this like innate wisdom, and it will store different experiences. So when you can work with a sensation, so if we're doing like somatic work, I might ask you like, what are you noticing and feeling in the body? And then being able to explore that and kind of going down that rabbit hole, again, might not ever bring you like a memory or an experience, and again, that you don't have to relive it, but something might pop up to like work through that you can release. Same thing if you think of like if you've ever been in a car accident, we store that trauma in our body. And so being able to work through even some of that helps release that energy that's like bound and stuck in our body. So hopefully that explained it a little bit deeper. It's working with like the felt sensation rather than like the mind piece of it.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, like just oftentimes, I mean, a lot of us don't take time. We don't create space in our day to like sit in silence. And that silent time is when we feel things,
Mhm.
where otherwise we are constantly in our heads going and doing. And most of the time we're doing it, not really intentionally. We just, the behavioral patterns, beliefs, stories, all of that are, leading, like, let's say, break up with someone. Well, you find yourself being preoccupied, busy. You try and stay
Mhm.
in that like doing behavior because you don't want to feel sad anymore. It's like you don't want to feel sad. So your body just like reacts and you just go into this go, 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 do, do, do.
Mhm.
But in order to heal from that or learn the lessons from that, you got to get quiet with yourself and feel it and be like, okay, what did I actually learn from this? Maybe that relationship actually wasn't that great.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, and there's the difference too, around like the thinking about how you're feeling and actually being with the felt experience of it. It's like think of like a weather reporter. There's a difference between like reporting about the weather and then actually being in the middle of like the hurricane and like feeling it from that place. And so that's even something when we think about dropping into like the body, and that work. It's not like, let me just think that I feel sad. Like that's what I used to always do. I'd use my mind, and I couldn't unhook my mind. And then diving deeper, you can actually be with the experience. It's not always like the most comfortable thing to do, but like that helps like you move through it as well. So you can kind of think about that metaphor as like a way to understand, okay, am I thinking about how am I feeling, or am I actually being with the felt emotion and the experience of it?
yeah. Yeah. And to go on that, the breath work, I definitely felt the feels. So,
I remember your first breath work.
oh my God, that was crazy. I actually came across the videos on my phone from that the other day. I'm like, man, if I post these, people will think I'm cray cray. But yeah, it was like, so Erin facilitates breath work. And what is it? Holotropic? Is that like the name of it? Or is that different
Yeah,
kind?
it's like a meditative, like 3-part breath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
The practice.
Yeah, it's a very, very intense breath work. I guess like obviously the more open you are to it, it's more intense too. But yeah, I had been going through some stuff, a breakup at the time. Just a lot of different life transitions were happening for me. And yeah, I was like fully open to receive. And I could not stop crying. I mean, we were on there for maybe 30, 40 minutes, maybe I think our session was, or 45 minutes. And like, I was sobbing as if I just lost my mom. Like, as literally, like something, well, it was like all the trauma, the shit, the anger, the frustration, the confusion, the disappointment, like every single thing that we void out feeling was coming up for me. And I was just letting the emotions out and I was crying. My body was twitching. Things were happening that I couldn't explain. My fingers went into these claws. It went to these like claw-like figures. Snot was running down my nose. I was coughing on my snot running in the back of my throat. It was just not a glamorous situation, but it was the most glamorous outcome because I mean, besides crying and crying and crying, I mean, even afterwards, like we sat up and she was like, so how did you feel? And I just like started to like unleash the cry session again. And I was just like, I couldn't pull it together. Like, I was just like, oh my God, I don't think I've ever experienced my emotions to that degree before. I'd never allowed myself to. I didn't even know I could. I didn't, and this goes to like the whole point, of where we are told our entire lives, like when you're whining about something, you're crying about something, your parents, your caregivers, whoever, your best friend, they'll be like, shut up, why are you crying? And it immediately just makes you like turn that emotion off or feel unworthy of having it or experiencing it or expressing it, or you think you got to be tough about it. And like, especially for men out there, it's like, toughen up, you're a man. And it's like, no, like I want all guys to be vulnerable. And I think that's something like I love about my dad, because my dad is a very vulnerable person and he will just cry. And it's just the cutest thing. And I'm like, I want a man in my life who's that vulnerable. Like that's what I need in my life too. But anyways, the breath work was fabulous. I released so much, not just like, I'm not just saying guys like tears and crying, like emotions that were stuck inside of me for so long. And I had this, like my biggest let go, quote unquote. I was able to let go of a lot of like attachments, I guess is a good word, that I was having. I mean, again, I had just like gotten out of like a breakup. Some family situation was happening, and it was definitely like, I was just like cutting these, like, as my sister always told me, and I never knew what this was, but like energetic cords in a sense, like I was cutting them. And I was like, oh my God, like I felt so much freer. I had just so much more like peace within my body after that moment. And I always say this too, and I don't know if this has anything to do with it. It could just be a coincidence, but when I was doing my breath work, or like a month and a half after my breath work, I had like lost some weight. It was like really interesting. And I think that because for 2 years I was stuck around the same like weight and everything. And not that we're not going into body image here or anything like that, but I just was stuck at a certain weight for so long. And I really feel like my honest truth was like, I think I was just carrying around so much stress and baggage that when I did that breath work and I let go, my body was finally like, thank you. And it just released. And I like, because nothing changed. Like my diet didn't change, my workout routine, nothing changed except for a breathwork session that I became a new woman.
Yeah, it makes sense. You just think about that. It's like experiences, things stored in our body. We're not I'd say most people aren't taught like how to actually work with that and release that. We just stuff it down. So it's like, experience happens or we're told something or anything and we just like shove it down, shove it down, shove it down, shove it down. Then at what point, like, are we just kind of culminating in this stress or these experiences again that not even our conscious mind can think about? And it's like when you move them, like you release it, you create space for it to happen, and you can feel that secureness. You can feel that lightness that happens in your body when you let go. And yeah, it's incredible for sure.
Yeah. And it was. Thank you again for doing that. And I did it a couple of times.
Yeah.
You know, it was funny because it was like sadness came up the first time, and then it was like frustration and anger came up the next time.
Mhm. You
It's
had
like,
your mom on there the one time too,
yeah,
and like
I
visual.
did.
Yeah.
I did. You know, I even had that conversation with my mom recently because my mom, I think, had like a sinus something going on. So she couldn't do the breathing too deep because she was afraid she was going to start coughing, like hacking up a lung on our
Mhm.
like live Zoom. And so she didn't experience the full effect. And so she said, I was like, Mom, we should do that again. Like get you to do that again so you can experience the real thing. Because not to say I think my mom needs it, but I think my mom needs it. I think everybody does, though.
Totally. Yeah.
Everybody could experience it. It can be a very life-changing experience.
Mhm.
Even if you don't think about it in the moment, just things that start happening for you and around you, like it's, it all just lines up. So it's just like really, really neat. So also I wanted to talk to you about kind of like pivoting here, but dating. Dating and like entrepreneurship, like how has that been for you? I mean, I personally know, but I want you to explain to the audience just like, I mean, you've gone through different relationships. I mean, you said that you had a partner, like you had a partner in your coaching business when you guys first started.
Mhm.
And then from there you had again like another kind of like longer term relationship, and now you're in another relationship. But how has, I think my correlation that I have seen is like when you're more in alignment with who you are and your relationship is in a good place, and obviously other things are in a good place. So
Mhm.
how has your business evolved as your relationships have evolved?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. It's I keep kind of bringing up some of like the attachment stuff, but that's kind of connected into a lot of this. And there were so many times like in my past relationships where I stayed out of fear of not being with anybody, and I put up with way too much shit, like, along the way, and again, I'm not gonna say in here that was, like, the perfect human, like, obviously, I had my own shit too, but kinda connecting into, like, the little girl piece of it, like, my little girl was, like, really activated in that, and until I learned how to support her and be with her and really help her understand what was happening and heal in these relationships. It was like things kept, once that happened, things kept getting better and better. Like I was out of alignment for a couple years in my like 6-year relationship that I was in. And, there was cheating that had happened early into the relationship and about midway through. And I stayed and we thought we had worked through it, but there was always part of me that couldn't fully trust, and I wasn't working at that point in time, wasn't working through that on like a deep level, and so I would get activated in it. And then there was points in time like towards the end of it where it's like I knew we both needed just to end it, but we were holding on. Same thing in business. Like there were times where I was fearful to let go of something, even though it wasn't, in alignment anymore. And there's that detachment that happens. And when we detach from something, what people often forget to understand is like there's attachment trauma. And so, like, when people just say, oh, yeah, detach from the outcome and everything will be fine. If you're working with attachment trauma, which pretty much we all have some aspect of it, like there's going to be so much that comes up for you. And so when everyone in like the spiritual world be like, detach from the outcome and everything's gonna be great, or like detach from what's happening. For me personally, like that was hard. And so then after that relationship released, I really felt like I was able to, come home to my body, get into my experience more, just find myself in a new way. Had a new partner into my life. This is a couple years ago, and obviously I had like my next level of things that I was learning and stepping into that took me deeper into my growth. And was there was obviously like some, again, cheating that was happening in this past relationship. And this time I was able to like look at it from a place of like, okay, this, I'm going to a certain place in my life and in my business. I'm not available for someone who's going to do these things to me. I need someone who's going to be a partner, who's going to come with me on that, and really being able to set like a strong boundary of, this is not what I'm available for. And and of course, like still breaking up and everything is tough and all of that. But I was able to feel more like secure in my body doing that. And it wasn't as like this, it was still obviously very sad, but I could feel more grounded in my decision. And I knew that I could always trust me as I would move into the next level. And it just helped me again get more clear, just as it does in business, like on my path where I'm going, what my needs are, like actually being able to speak what I need in a relationship and not like shoving that down and just, doing what the other person um wants or desires, like being able to speak that. And like same thing in business, like we have to be able in a relationship, in business and whatever, to speak what it is that we're needing, and then being able to receive that actually on a deep level. And then from receiving our needs, our desires, being able to feel safe in keeping that, being able to feel safe in recreating that, and working through everything that pops up along the way. And now dating, a new human, is again, like, the next level of just like this depth within myself and understanding and being able to navigate that. And yeah, it's like a really beautiful journey when there's less like attachment in like how it's supposed to look or the way that things are supposed to happen, and you can feel really grounded and safe knowing that like you always got you, and allowing somebody else to hold you and support you along the way too. So much opens up. So I don't know if that answers your question, because I feel like I went off on something, but like receiving in relationships, receiving in business, all of that, it's all like combined.
Yeah, it's all connected. No, I mean, it's just like one of my like foundational like feature questions to ask like almost every guest, because it really, I guess my subliminal message here is sharing that everything is connected, and it really, really is. And that was like a part of my journey too. I mean, what you were talking about feeling safe and just detaching yourself and putting yourself like more in alignment with who you want to be and where you're going. That was kind of like with my relationship, my most recent relationship. I just, a lot of times too, like I mean, we all do this, whether you're a coach or not, like us girls, everybody does this in life. You're having a conversation with your girls, you're having a girl chat. One of the girls is, going through stuff with the boy, and all the girls are like, yeah, get rid of him, dump his ass, blah, blah, blah. He's not showing up for you. You deserve so much better. But then like they get into like a dating relationship and they do the exact same thing. And then the other girl's like, you deserve so much better. You should dump his ass. And it's like, sometimes we don't listen to our own, we don't practice what we preach sometimes, because it's hard, because we also are human, and we are going through this like healing journey ourselves, or we're going through a journey, we're going through these experiences. And I think what's really cool about like how the both of us and those of you who are diving deeper into personal development and stuff, you can get there faster. You can make these shifts faster. You can really hold space for yourself, get to that point of safety, get to that next level healing when you are making these, you're tuning inward to yourself and really allowing yourself to align with your next level version you. And like I said, with my most recent relationship, I had a whole program. I mean, I have a whole program, and I was like, wow, I'm like teaching these girls about boundaries, and I'm not 100% in mine. Like, that's not okay. Like, and I don't like that, because then I felt like a hypocrite, stereotype, like, or not stereotype, a hypocrite. And I was like contradicting what I was saying. Like, I wasn't doing what I was completely saying, to a degree. I mean, not completely like losing all boundaries, but there was a lot of resistance in that relationship. And it wasn't working because he wasn't ready. My little girl inside of me was like, but why, like, be ready, you love me. And there was a lot of control that came through all of that. And I mean, I recognized so many behaviors and like how I lost myself, like, again. And I had a session recently, and I was thinking, I'm like, wow, although I'm not sitting here saying that I'm like over analyzing or I'm like obsessing over that relationship, because it is what it is. And I've learned so much from it, and I'm so grateful. And I can't wait to like share and help other women like get to the point that I was able to get to be like, yeah, it's okay. Like, I'm like, let go of what's not serving you anymore, and be okay with that. But still experiencing the sadness and the grief and whatever. But I also had a realization that, like, I was analyzing the relationship. Like, what did I do wrong in a sense? But it wasn't because of him or the relationship. It was the deep rooted story, the behavior, the pattern of how I think I've just always been. Like, when something doesn't go my way or something doesn't happen the way I want it to, it's, we go into that, like, well, what did I do wrong? Like, and that's something that maybe I heard, like, what's wrong with you? Something like that. Or, we immediately think that we're the one who did something wrong. And it's like, you may not have done anything wrong. You just didn't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe you did know, but you didn't know how to get yourself out of it at the time. But this work, the coaching, having a coach, being a coach, doing personal development, the journaling, like whatever, somatics, all the things, like, it's going to help you get to that point, that healing point faster, or that awareness faster, might I add, to help you really make the shifts. Because otherwise, I think, like, for the both of us, he and I would maybe still be in that same song and dance, and that song and dance was going nowhere. So, I definitely understand that. And like what you said about being safe, that was something that popped up. I had another conversation with another friend of mine, and I was like, wow, like, he said something about the word safe, like in a former relationship of his. And I was like, that is exactly how I felt. Like, thinking like you're going to maybe be with someone for the rest of your life. Of course, like me, I mean, you guys all know me. I'm a very vulnerable, transparent person. So of course I lay all the things out there. And what I realized, I mean, even while I was in the relationship, was that he wasn't giving me as much as I was giving him in the vulnerability way. So when I feel like he knows every inch of my soul, and I'm like, wow, like, now it's not going to be hard, but I could go there and think like, wow, it may be hard for me next time to, be as expressive and share every minute detail, because now there's this like safety thing. Like, well, are they going to leave me? Because I did that one time and they left me, So
Yeah.
I'm very aware of that thought. I'm not going to believe that thought. Like, I know that someone is going to be there and they're going to love me and hold me. And I'm working on the emotional energy in my body to change that story for myself. But that was a thought that popped up for me. And I was like, dang, like, we do want to feel safe, but we have to first feel safe within ourselves, and we have to trust ourselves. And I know I shared this with you yesterday, that I've been like journaling, like, I trust myself. And I've been like repeating that like for the last like week now. I'm like, I trust myself. I trust myself with love. Love is coming to me. Like, because I'm just trying to change my belief patterns, of course, and the way that everything feels inside of me too.
Yeah.
So,
I love that.
yeah. Thank you. Just having a revelation with you. So one of the, we'll start to wrap. Well, yeah. Okay. One of the like really big things that I learned when I was working with Erin was, just getting into, I mean, what we've been talking about, the overarching theme is like just being in that state of being, like allowing, receiving energy, right? And because again, I was so in this do, go, go, go. And I believe you were the one who introduced me to masculine and feminine energies. Can you explain that a little bit more for our audience?
Sure. Yeah. The kind of like being and receiving, and like the divine masculine, feminine, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to kind of like break it down, so we all have, no matter like sex, gender, how you identify, we all have masculine and feminine energies in our body, and we're either working in like our divine masculine and divine feminine, because we need both, or we're operating in more of like a wounded masculine or a wounded feminine energy. And if you just like Google that, you can find like a million things to describe both of them. But sometimes we get into this place specifically within like doing to receive versus like and being to receive, and kind of finding like the balance in that. We're operating from either the wounded spaces of the masculine and feminine energies. So operating in like a wounded masculine would be like, I need to like do more in order to like feel enough, and I need to like push. And hustle all the time and like it's never going to feel enough versus like, okay, yeah, like I want to take action and I want to show up for the thing that I'm doing. Then we're operating in more of like the divine masculine. The divine feminine is like allowing yourself to like be and be to receive and be held and have experience like more flow in your life. And then obviously like there's the wounded feminine. And so in receiving and all of that, we have to really work in the divine piece of it. And that is obviously taking action, doing things that you need to do, but noticing when you're doing it from a place of like, oh, well, if I'm not doing enough or if I'm not always doing something, right? We have these like societal structures that tell us like you always have to be doing and like you can't rest and all of that. So a lot of us don't feel safe in actually allowing ourselves to rest or to just like be held or be supported. We kind of will chase things constantly. And so the being to receive is really allowing yourself to like be held, to be supported, like to relax, to surrender rather than trying to control. Because if we're doing to receive from like the wounded space, we're trying to grasp, we're trying to control the outcome, we're trying to get to something rather than like relaxing into like the reciprocity of it and allowing it to like come to us. Again, still showing up, doing what you need to do, but not like chasing, efforting our way there. You get to experience more ease in that when you're working in like the divine aspects of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I was. I was in the wounded something with, you know, because I was controlling, I was grasping. That is exactly what I was doing. So what would that be, the wounded masculine?
Probably in different aspects, a little bit of both, as we all have done, like trying to control or get.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I mean, yeah, and it goes into all areas of our life. I mean, I'm just speaking about relationship stuff, but it goes into, our business. If, like you said, if you're like doing things out of, well, if I don't do this, then I'm not going to be enough, or my business isn't going to work out if I don't do this. Like it's the strategy side of that, but that's the energy side of it, is showing up in that energy versus just knowing and owning and stepping in your power. Like, okay, I'm going to get this done because I know it's going to move the needle forward versus,
Totally.
okay, if I don't get this done, everything's just going to go to shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and for a lot of us, like in that we're running like trauma responses, like we're operating in the the fight, the flight, the fawn, the freeze, depending upon what's coming up for you in that. So I think that that's always something to again to kind of dive into is what is like your response that happens in any of those situations and scenarios.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, not I just thought about this because I forgot to ask. But kind of going back to like the connectedness of like the relationship and the business, like obviously there is that connection, like I said, but have you seen like your business like just catapult the more that you align with that person that you do feel more safe with, and like where you feel safer, not necessarily the person, but where you feel safer with yourself? Has your business grown, and have you noticed that?
Yeah, I think it more so not even necessarily like the person, but like how I feel in my body and like that security and that like knowingness that it's safe to let go of things that aren't aligning for me. And the more that I cultivate that in me and let go of things that aren't serving me anymore, people, and I trust myself to be supported and I can um surrender to the outcome or the way or the when or the how and all of that, it makes such a difference. So yes, there's definitely connection as I've released in relationship and business and just in life in general, things that don't serve me or things that don't feel good in my body. And I've worked deeper on my healing. You naturally begin to like attract more of that because then you have space, you're open then to receive those things when you're not operating in a space of like, oh, is it going to leave me or is it never going to come back or whatever that might be? Because then again, you're not chasing for some external validation in business or you're not searching for a person to bring and meet that need inside of you. Like you're able to do that for yourself. And then you would naturally begin to attract, the money, the income, the business, the relationship, the life, whatever it is from that place.
Right.
I always describe it as like, you know, kind of like a glass. Like when you're able to like fill up your glass and learn how to do that, then you can open yourself up. Because like obviously we get needs met from others too, like self to self, self to other, self to group. Like there's different ways, but like being able to work with all three of those avenues, it makes such a difference. So yeah, always connections for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's a connection also with, you know, you mentioned like attracting like money and income. The same thing, like trusting yourself and being in alignment with you, filling up your cup, it attracts that income more and your behavioral patterns, you know, like as you trust that money's coming in, like you're always in flow and, you know, kind of like going into like knowing that if you spend or you save or you invest or you donate or buy or whatever, money is always in flow to you because you have this inner trust inside of you.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that stuff.
Mhm.
So you mentioned human design to me earlier. Are you like, could you share a little bit about that, like what that concept is?
I'm not an expert enough to like give you like a whole breakdown of it, but if you go to like the Jovian Archive, like .net or .com website, you basically it's based on a lot of different like ancient wisdom practices kind of combined into one, and then there's different like types and from their strategies. It's a whole big thing. So again, I'm not versed well in it enough, but it can really help you with understanding relationships, how to operate your business. Like there's a lot of magic in it for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look into that. And then the five personality patterns also. So tell us about your, like, do you have a specific like daily routine that helps you get into alignment for yourself for the day?
Yeah, you know, honestly, it depends. Like, I kind of always used to be like, okay, well, I have to like do this whole thing or whatever. And for me, it's really more so like, what am I needing throughout the day? So sometimes in the morning, you know, it's journaling, pulling a card, it's breath work, it's Reiki, it's whatever it might be. Um, but really for me, it's kind of noticing and being with what comes up throughout the day. So like regulating my nervous system, you know, before a call, or being able to clear my energy after a coaching call, or if I'm getting activated for some reason, like using like my tools to be able to navigate that throughout the day is really important. Walking, working out, all that good stuff, like fueling my body properly. But yeah, it's really, instead of, for me personally, it being like a structured thing of, oh, I have to do this, it's like I can listen to my body and ask my body, like, what are you needing? Like, do you desire to wake up and like, you know, work on some content? Does that feel good for you today? Or do you need more space to like breathe and walk and meditate? So that's kind of been my journey over the last couple of years, is not letting it be like I have to do X, Y, and Z in the morning, but really like trusting myself that it's exactly what I need, and releasing any story that it has to look a certain way.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, the moral is we need to release and let go of what's not serving us and trust ourselves. Trust
Totally.
trust those thoughts, the
Trust
intuition.
us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Mhm.
I love that. Oh my goodness. So what do you have any like big goals for 2021? What's going on in Erin's life?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. So like for me this year is really about like just like living fully in experiences, like a deep level of like presence and like enjoyment and fulfillment in the work that I'm doing. Um, I want to have $1 million in my business this
Yeah.
year, make that through just serving on a deeper level so I can give back. My book will be coming out here in like 2 months. So, and a card deck. So yay. So lots of exciting, like just different things too. And yeah, just really making my impact and helping people like have the tools and the resources to be really strong and solid coaches, and then helping them scale their businesses. So
Yeah.
that's my mission.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Thank you.
I
Thanks.
love that. Oh my God, your book. I almost forgot about that. I know you've talked
Yeah.
about it, but 2 months. That's so
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. Almost here.
Oh my God, I can't wait to read it. That's gonna be so great.
Yeah.
Well, this has been incredibly awesome.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, I know I can talk to you forever and ever, but I will not. I think this was a lot of information for everybody. And no, this was just so awesome. Again, thank you for being here, sharing your story, sharing your light, and, just kind of educating everyone on those things. Thanks for going over that in different modalities with us and
Yeah, of
helping
course.
to better understand. So now I'm like, oh my God, I need to like get more involved in that stuff again. I mean, like you even did, we didn't even talk about, but like RFT tapping.
Oh yeah.
You had done that with me before, and I like another friend of mine here in Atlanta, she actually like posted a video of it the other day, and I was like, oh my God, this stuff was like introduced to me and I need to like utilize it myself. She's like, yeah, it's like such a superpower. I'm like, I
Yeah.
know, I need more superpowers.
You are superwoman.
I got so much going on, but no, but I am in the process letting go of things that don't serve me and getting into that trust mode myself in
Yeah.
all ways. So, like I said, I'm journaling. I trust myself every day. But thank you. Well, can you tell everyone where they can find you? I know you have a podcast too, so share it all.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty much Erin Nicole coaching on all the places. And then my podcast is The Energetics of Business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's lovely. I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
I love you,
you.
honey.